はい、というわけで、コードボールジャパンサミットいよいよ始まるよということで、1つ目のセッションに行きたいと思います。ビカミングはCivicサービスデザイナーということで、海外から、アイエルさんにお越しいただいております。もともとですね、彼女は、コードボールアメリカのフェローシッププログラムに入ってですね、そこでもともとそのデザインをずっと勉強されてたんですけれども、その後そのフェローとして、実際に行政と働いて、で、その市民が、サービスデザインに参加することのプロセスの、非常にこう、専門としてですね、いろいろな活動をやられています。で、最近のプロジェクトだとそのニューヨークの市長、室の中でのそのデザインの、プロジェクトチームを率いて、いろんな活動をされております。で、そこら辺の話をぜひ聞いていただきたいなと思っています。で、私自身ですね、大変楽しみにして、毎回毎年海外からお呼びするんですけれども、今日は特にサービスデザインというですね、すごくこう日本でもですね、いろんな注目されてきている動きに対してご紹介いただきますので、はい、しばらくお待ちください。So, let me introduce Ariel Kennan.
Thank you, Hassan.
Thank you very much. So, please come here and so, 盛大な拍手でお迎えください。
Good morning, I'm Ariel. I will share a little bit about my background to start. So my education is as a designer at Parsons School of Design in New York. I've worked across many sectors, including the private sector, nonprofit, and public sectors. As Hassan mentioned, I was a Code for America Fellow in 2013, working in Kansas City. And that inspired me to join the government as a public servant. And so most recently, I worked in the New York City Mayor's office, where I founded the first municipal service design studio in the United States, and also ran a digital product team. This year, though, I decided to go back to the private sector, and I joined Sidewalk Labs as the Director of Civic Innovation. I work in both the United States and in Canada. And my work has included many different parts of design, including digital products, technology in the built environment, service design, and also teaching others how to be a designer. I'd like to begin with a story about a project that I worked on. In 2016, my team was asked by the mayor of New York City to work on street homelessness. We started with an extensive research process. But there's one night that's particularly special. In New York, it's common for homeless people to be on the subway, and there's a special team of outreach workers who offer services to help them find homes. So this night was in February. It's freezing cold outside, and it's the middle of the night. And our team heads out to the subway line with these outreach workers. Some of the people that they see are familiar, some of them are new. Most of them just ignore the outreach workers, and others just move away or say leave me alone. It can sometimes take hundreds of these interactions before people who are homeless start trusting the workers who work on behalf of the government that they're going to help them. They're really some of our most vulnerable residents who have been let down by society and the safety net. Finally, one man says he's ready. They take him to the car, and they now find him a spot indoors for the night. Once they get there, he can't believe he has his own home and his own room, and that he can take a shower. But this now begins the long process of finding him a permanent home. So you may have noticed in that story, I did not talk about how things look. I talked about how things work and how people had an experience as part of that moment of service delivery. So design is about how things work. This brings us specifically to civic service design. Civic service design is a discipline to develop solutions that are rooted in insights about the holistic experiences of those affected by public services. It considers people, processes, communications, and technology as part of the solution. On this project, the Street Homelessness Project, it's led to many different solutions, including policy changes, design research and deliverables, performance management data, public and internal dashboards, branding and communications materials, funding and budget for the program, and also a new case management system. So there wasn't just one solution to the problem, it was many solutions coming together. Some of these things look like this. This was a design research report which documented every step of the process. We also created this journey map to show the complexity of the service in one view. So each dot you see is an individual person, and each cluster or group of dots is a service interaction point. So you can see the process from getting someone from the street into a permanent home is very complex and takes lots of people and lots of moments of interaction. We also created public dashboards to help tell the story of people experiencing homelessness using data. The Department of Homeless Services also issued a policy report on homelessness, which included our design artifacts and design process as part of the policy change. We also created professional branding and graphics that are on the uniforms that the workers wear so that they can be more trusted when they're working with these New Yorkers. But most importantly, this project was about changing people's lives. So all of these enhancements together helped bring 690 people into housing in the year of 2016. And the work continues every single day. So what does it mean to be a civic service designer? A civic service designer is someone who develops solutions based on the insights of the holistic experiences of those affected by public services. They consider the people, processes, communications, and technology as part of the solution. So they're the ones doing civic service design. But where can you be a civic service designer? So one place to do it is on the inside, working inside government, which is one of the places that I've worked. Some examples, these examples are all from the United States, Canada, and Europe. But some are at the federal level, which include the United Kingdom's Government Digital Service, the United States Digital Service, and most recently the Canadian Digital Service. We also have at state and provincial level digital services including in the state of Georgia, the province of Ontario, and California has a child welfare digital services who works only on issues for children. And then also cities are creating lots of opportunities for this, including the Mayor's Office of New Urban Mechanics in Boston, the Civic Design Lab in Oakland, California, and where I used to work at the New York City's Mayor's Office for Economic Opportunity. There's examples all over the globe. I just picked a few, but I think this is a big trend and a change that's happening all over the world. You can also be a civic service designer as a partner. So there's lots of places to do this as well. Code for America now has a team working inside that partners with government to design civic services. There's other organizations that are nonprofits, including the Center for Civic Design, Public Policy Lab, a very new organization called Coding It Forward, who's bringing college-age fellows, university students, into working in the federal government, and also a company called NAVA PBC, who is building government technology. But you can also be a designer as a resident. You don't have to work at one of these organizations. And I think that Code for Japan offers you an amazing opportunity to do just So you can become a civic service designer, and you can also help your organization learn how to design. So today I'm going to share with you some tactics that work for both improving your design skills and also improving your organization to use design. So first I'd like to share tactics that will help you increase your design skills. First, learning the tools of design are very important. There's many great resources that are now available online. I'm going to share with you examples that are in English, but I'm sure that there are tools out there in Japanese as well. My team in New York City created a tool set specifically for civic service design. This is the only resource that's like this. It provides instructions and templates for how you can use design in your own projects. You can access the content online, and you can also download the book and other materials. This presentation throughout also has links at the bottom of every slide, so hopefully you can visit those as well. One of my other favorite resources is the IDEO Design Kit. This was created by a design company that's based in the United States. It provides human-centered design methods that you can learn from. There's also some specialty tool sets, like this one from the Center for Civic Design, which is based on elections and voting, and is very specific to that particular service. But most importantly, you can't just read the tools, you have to actually practice them. So you can read things, but then you need to go out and actually do these things in the field and apply them to your projects. And over time, by practicing again and again, is how you become an expert designer. One of the great ways to start practicing your design skills is to talk to the people who use, deliver, and administer the service you are working on. This can take a lot of different formats. This may include meeting with people one-on-one. It may be designing activities that help get a response to the thing that you're wanting feedback on. It can also include going out into the field where your users might be. These are all photos of my former team in New York City engaging with residents in different settings and working through issues and ideas together. It can also include a lot of people. So the project I showed before on homelessness, we talked to 37 government staff, 28 program staff, and 7 clients. That was all the people who were needed in order to get the insight and the information that we needed to really come up with the solutions. There's a lot of great ways to connect with users, even if you may not already. Something that we're seeing in the United States and Canada are the new civic usability testing groups. These groups recruit members to be paid testers of websites and apps. This was first started in Chicago, but it has also spread to New York, where Blue Ridge Labs at the Robin Hood Foundation runs the Design Insight group. And I also have very exciting news to share that Code for Canada is starting a testing group based in Toronto. You were actually the first to hear this news. We are announcing it next week in Canada, and that the testing will also start later this year. My company is one of the founding sponsors of this work, so I'm very proud to share this news with you today. So after you've talked to people, you're going to gain a lot of information about your user and the service. Earlier, I showed you the completed journey map, all of the steps in the service, but I would like to show you the process of how we actually made that map. We had very detailed notes, and we started to find the themes and figure out which pieces connected, allowing us to create our first journey map. These are sticky notes pasted on the wall, which allowed us to easily move items, connect pieces together, and start to establish some of those patterns. We then took this digital. This is using a tool that allows you to use sticky notes online. This helped us see the big phases in the process and how they connected, but it also allowed us to start sharing it with colleagues in other offices so they could also learn the things that we were learning very quickly. We were able to show that we were making progress and that also we could share some early insights into the work. We next turned this into a very detailed designed artifact that was about 20 pages in all. But our team is not the experts. We're very good listeners, but we don't know all of the details. So we hosted a one-day workshop with a variety of stakeholders to help us validate the journey map. So these are many of the people who actually deliver this service and manage the program of the outreach workers. And together, we marked up the journey map and corrected things that were wrong, adding new details, and also refining where we should focus. Coming together is hard to do. It's hard to bring people together to make the time to do these things, especially people like this who deliver a critical service and respond to emergencies most of their day. But it was really impactful because we gave them time to reflect and share in a new way that they normally haven't been able to do. In addition to the journey map, we also started brainstorming the enhancements to the service and really gave them a chance to dream and a chance for change, whether that's policy, service delivery, budget, communications, technology, or data. We really said, think about what could be different about this service, and let's help make that happen. This got us to that final view that I shared. So these different steps coming together were part of the process where we really iterated and refined the actual deliverable so that we could better communicate. One of the next really important tactics is creating shareable documentation. Your research is not actually that valuable if it can't be shared with people, and they also need to be shown that they need to pay attention to it, that it's important. Different methods work for different projects, so I'm going to share with you a few examples. Earlier, I showed you this design research report that we created. It was about 100 pages, thick book, and it was required reading for everyone on the project at all of the different agencies who were involved. And we wanted them to really know all the details. And the director of our mayor's office required that, and so she used her position to help further that. This is a really beautiful research report that came out late last year. It's called From Voicemails to Votes. It's from the Open Government Foundation, which is based in Washington, D.C. They're focused on the United States federal government, and this research report is focused on the United States Congress and how constituents can communicate with their elected representatives. This is actually on a Medium blog, a publication that's been customized. I recommend reading it. It's really beautifully done. This is an example from a civic tech project. This was done in Ottawa. This is just a blog post. It's also on Medium, but it's just a simple blog post where the designer and research team from Ottawa demonstrated their process of building a prototype for 311 and really show all of the different steps and how they iterated it. It's a really wonderful read on civic tech. So as you learn to design, or if you're already a designer, or a leader who wants to include design in your team's work, it's important to start building a culture of design within your organization. One place to start is setting a mission and principles to guide your team and your work. This is an example from the United Kingdom. Showcasing their design principles. They've made these very beautiful posters, which you can also download, but these really help frame their work and what to focus on and what to prioritize. The New York City Service Design Studio has a clear mission of making services more effective and accessible for New Yorkers, and also a set of principles. These are also available for download online. And I get pictures kind of from around the world of people with these posters in their offices now, which is really an honor to see. Also, the people who do the work are crucial to a successful strategy. So who you hire and how you build your team is incredibly important. But there's a few different ways to think about this. One is to think about the leaders who support new ways of working and share with their peers and also upper management. This is how I've been very successful in a lot of my work, is having people above me in the organization who believe in the work that I do. Another one is thinking about the workers who are really willing to try smaller experiments and are also learning. So who are the people around you who are willing to try new things and willing to be creative with you? And also to think about partners in other parts of your organization or external organizations. The work is only so effective if you're one group doing it, but if you have really strong partners across multiple organizations or different departments of your organization, the work is much more successful. Another really important way to bring people into the design process is showing the work. So showing and sharing the work across your team and your organization is a way to get more exposure to the ideas that you have and provide greater transparency. A great way to do this is using foam boards that you can pin pieces of paper to. You could put up a prototype like the team is looking at here, a diagram, a new layout for a book or an application, or even your research findings up in a place where everyone can see it. Whiteboards can also be a great way to share ideas and get feedback from your team and organization. This is a great post, a blog post from the UK that talks about how they've been using whiteboards to do journey mapping and other diagrams, as well as their mapping their development process in a way that not only everyone can see it, but they can quickly make changes to it because it's just a whiteboard. Another great way to build design culture in your organization is opening the doors so that others can learn about design and talk to you about how they're using design and questions that they may have. In New York, we started an open office hours program for government employees and nonprofits to come into the office and talk to us about their work. And how they wanted to use design, and also getting feedback on design work. So most of the people here are from New York City government, but the bottom left corner is from the federal government, and the two people in the middle are from Beta NYC, which is the Code for America Brigade in New York City. And so trying to really open the doors so that people can come in and talk to you in a safe space and learn together. This collaboration in New York has been very successful. We started it as an experiment. We did not know if it would work, but the office hours are actually now booked weeks, if sometimes not months in advance. And over 100 hours have been held within the first 6 months of starting this program. So very popular. Opening the doors can also mean opening the doors to young professionals who are eager to work on civic projects. So one of the other pieces that I started in New York was our apprenticeship program. We started with just designers and has now grown to also include product managers and software developers. And they work with the team on real projects for 3 to 6 months, building up their skills and contributing to the wider work of the office. So getting real government experience and really learning how to design. Some of them have continued to work in government, and other ones have gone to other places to work in government or go back into the private or nonprofit sector. But they've learned a lot about design and civic service design in particular in their time working inside the government with us. Another great tactic is speaking in plain language. So it's really important that you communicate in plain language, whether you're talking about design or you're creating design. When we wrote the Civic Service Tools and Tactics Guide, We wrote it in plain language. We wanted it to be approachable by people who are not designers. And so we did not use a lot of design jargon. We wanted to make it easy to understand. Plain language is also really important for the things you're designing. There are actual excellent examples of plain language civic services out there. This is one that I really love from San Francisco. It's their housing portal, and it simplifies the affordable housing process and makes it very easy to understand for San Franciscans. The U.S. federal government also has a content guide to creating materials in plain language, so this can be a great resource to understand how you get started with that way of working. And really the last tactic I'm going to share today it's an advanced tactic, but as your organization has more demand for design, you really need to make it easier for your organization to work with professional designers. So there's been some places in the United Kingdom, they've hired a lot of professional designers who work full-time as public servants, but it's not possible in a lot of places. And so one of the things that we did in New York was created a new contract for procuring digital communication and service design. The proposals from those vendors are vetted by design experts who work inside the government. And then only the vendors that are recommended have a contract that can be used on an ongoing basis. So when an agency has a design need, they submit a design request to this council of experts, and then only the people who were pre-qualified, the companies that were pre-qualified, get the request, and then they can propose on it. So this helps do a few different things. One is that it helps the process go just faster. Procurement can take a very long time, so by knowing who's pre-qualified. But it also makes sure that we're working with the best professionals, that they're people who are really vetted, and that you don't have to be a design expert to know that you're getting a good quality service. So this has been a way in New York to meet the demand of wanting to work with more professional designers. So I hope today that this message has helped inspire you. I think that you all can become expert civic service designers, and that you can also help your organization learn how to design. So I hope that this has inspired you with the possibilities of design, and thank you for letting me visit. You can feel free to get in touch with me online. I'm also on Twitter, and I'll be here today and tomorrow. And I think we're going to open for questions.
Thank you very much. Your work is really scientific, and there are a lot of achievements. I really right. 質問、英語でも日本語でも大丈夫です。名手がサポートをして日本語で喋るか英語で質問するかを言ってから質問をお願いします。どなたでも結構です。いかがでしょうか。じゃあ、マイクをどなたか回していただいていいですか。お待ちください。こちら手挙げ、もう一度手挙げてください。
じゃあ英語で。OK。そう、いいですか。Thank you for your inspiring talk. My name is Masaki from the University of Tokyo. So my question is, how do you make your team to do your projects successfully? So, I mean, designer can be one option. This can be the leader of your project and design. In that case, you can be the center of your team, and also you can help some other teams that already exist, and you can help them to communicate and to understand each other and to finish the product. So I wonder how designers should be joined to the team to do your project. It could be the leader or some other part.
Yeah. I didn't talk much about the structure of the team or how the Service Design Studio is working with other government agencies. But in the beginning of this year, we actually ran a competition internally inside the government, inviting people to propose projects to work with the studio on. And so we got 15 proposals from 11 city agencies who wanted to work with the design studio and were willing to sign up to use this approach with us. And so that's been one of our, I would say, one of the main methods of success is working with people who want to work this way. It's not trying to force design on people who don't want design is not a good use of your time. There's too many things to work on than to spend your time on things that people don't want design. So having really willing partners has been a great way for the studio to succeed. I think it's also been about the people that we've hired at the studio who are very willing to be very patient and take the time to really be thoughtful about the process and also share the work so that everyone feels like they're coming along as the work progresses.
So the initial process of working together is making them understand what design is. It would be the important part, I guess.
That, especially early on, is an important part. I think the work in New York had changed a lot. So the project that I showed on homelessness was one of the first big projects that we did. And that helped show a lot of the process and what was possible. But that was before we had created things like the Civic Service Design Tools and Tactics Guide. And so now there's this resource that we can just hand the book to everyone and say, read this, follow along with us. The team in New York also structures their project plans and their timelines based on the high-level tactics that are in the book. So it fits together as a really nice system that people are really starting to see very different outcomes from and a very different way of working.
Thank you.
Thank you.
すごく簡単に読んだだけ、質問の内容が、デザイナーさんがチームに入るときにどういう役割で入るのがいいですかという質問でした。それに対しては、アイヤさんのところでは、まず、そのデザインを必要とする、団体を選ぶときにどういうふうに選んでいるかというふうに言いますと、デザインスタジオ、彼女が、運営されたチームが、実際に、公募して、我々のデザインのスタジオを使いたい、団体を選んでますかという公募に対して希望があったところと一緒にプロジェクトをすることにしていますと話をしていました。なのでデザインが、全く必要と思ってない人たちにデザインの必要性を説明するとすごく大変なので、そうではなくて、おのずから、自分たちがデザインを使ったりしてみたいと思うところと一緒にプロジェクトをするようにしていますというふうにおっしゃっていました。簡単ですか。
はい、他に質問まだ、4分ぐらいある。じゃあ、こちら。
じゃあ英語で。Thanks for the talk. And my name is Alex. I have an engineering background. And my question is that, so like you introduced us a lot of like methodologies, but the project changes. I mean every project is different, right? And so my question is like whether you have to stick to the methodology or you have to be contingent, according to the project, because sometimes the duration of the project is kind of limited, or the resources are not available. So yeah, that's it.
It's a very good question. Thank you. I will say one thing is that when we created the Civic Service Design Tools and Tactics, I never wanted them to have numbers. I never wanted it to say you do step 1, and then step 2, and then step 3. That you can go in a different order, you can do one and skip to the next one. But there's some core principles that I think are really important for any project. Some of them that I shared today, one is about talking to the people who actually have the subject matter expertise. So whether they're residents who are experiencing that service, or they're the people who do the service delivery directly, the workers who are working with residents, or there are people who are policymakers, that it's really hard to not do that part and get informed, good solution. So I think there are parts that you should try to never skip, but you can do them at different scales. Sometimes you can do months and months of research. Sometimes you don't have the resources to do that. You don't have the budget or the time to do it. So what are ways you can do that in a few hours or a few days so that at least you get some insight as part of it. I think also as your organization becomes more welcoming to design, it becomes a bigger priority. And so my team in New York, that was the way we worked. And so we were never going to say we were not going to do part of that process.
Thank you.
まず、その今日のプレゼンテーションの中で、実際のツールキットだったりだとか、手法の紹介がたくさんありました。で、質問ではそのプロジェクトによってそれぞれリソースであったりとか、立ち向かう課題であったりだとか、さまざまそのプロジェクトによって状況が変わりますけれども、そのメソッドに従って、プロジェクトを進めた方がいいですかという質問でした。で、アリエルさんの回答としては、アリエルさんが準備している今日紹介があったツールキットでは、一つ大事にしていることが、順番をつけていませんと。ステップ1、これ、ステップ2、これというふうに言うのではなくて、順番を書いていないので、自由に自分たちのできるところからどんどんやっていったらいいですよというふうに進めています。で、一番大事なことは、当事者に話を聞くことが一番大事ですと。プロジェクトによって内容が異なるので、実際のその決済する人であったりだとか、その当事者であったりだとか、彼らの話を聞いて、実際の生のその人たちに対してプロジェクトを進めていくということが大切ですというふうにおっしゃっていました。
はい、じゃあ
日本語で質問させていただきます。私、新潟市役所の小島と申します。お話の中で政府のニーズじゃなくて市民のニーズでとか、理念をシンプルに簡単な言葉でとか、そういったいろいろな響くなという点がありました。でも実際組織に勤めていると理念がものすごい何百ページにもわたったりとか、綺麗だけれど伝わりにくい理念になってしまったりですとか、言葉が専門家じゃないとわからないようになったりっていう圧力が常に働いてしまうんだなというのを感じてしています。そういったことにくじけずにシンプルに平易な言葉でっていうのを貫くためにはどういった努力をだとか、どういった姿勢が必要なんでしょうか。
talking and hopefully it will load. So this is another project that we did in New York. It's called Access NYC. It's for getting all of the government benefits and programs that a New Yorker would be eligible for. And so we redesigned this site and also did a process to really make sure that all of the content, which is based on government policy, is written in a way that anyone could understand it, even somebody that reads at a elementary school level. And so there's information about over 40 programs that are on here. The site is also, unfortunately, it's not in Japanese. It's in 11 languages, including English. These are the top languages in New York City. But this project has been a really important piece of evidence to show how important it can be to help residents and not just policymakers understand how to get the services. And so I think being able to point to examples around the world where the content is being made accessible and isn't government talking to government, but it's government talking to residents in ways that residents can understand is a good thing to also feed back into general policy making, that we govern for the people, and so the people need to understand our governance. Those both things.
彼女のプロジェクトをここで今紹介させていただいておりますけれども、一つ大事なことはですね、住民さんに伝わる言葉で書くと、住民さんからフィードバックが返ってくる。そこを大事にしていただくのがいいかな、大事にしていただくことが一つですと、この彼女のプロジェクトでは、いくつかの、行政から発表する内容というのを、プロジェクトごとに、紹介していて、そこの内容で気をつけていることは、内容をすごくシンプルにすること、小学生でも理解できるような文章で書くことを大事にしています。そうすることによって、市民の方々にとっては、行政が行っている内容を、ここで知ることができますし、それに対してフィードバックをもらうことができます。かつ、住民さんがその情報にアクセスできるような場所というのが、これができたことによって、できました。なので、そのフィードバックを得れるということを、覚えておいていただいて、それをモチベーションしていただくのがいいのではないかということです。
はい、時間が来ましたので質問は以上させていただきます。
お願いします。
どうもありがとうございました。はい、アリエルさんまだいらっしゃいますので、直接休憩時間とかですね、あと懇親会も参加されると思いますので、ぜひいろいろと聞いていただければなと思います。英語とかの翻訳はあそこの今、翻訳してくれた妙子君とか、あと他にも何人か英語のサポートにいますので、ぜひ積極的に